Welcome, everyone. Here today to talk about what's coming in Java Enterprise 8 is Arun Gupta. And this is Mr. Java Enterprise, author of many books, thousands of blog posts on this. As my former colleague back at Oracle, he actually led the launch of Java Enterprise. So this is the guy to talk to if you want to know anything. Now he's a director of developer advocacy at Red Hat, so he continues to be our dedicated enterprise Java evangelist. So please welcome on stage Mr. Arun Gupta.
Hello there. All right, excellent. So 15 minutes, I won't waste time in introduction. I'll just cut the chase. And as they say, you drink from the fire hose. So it's a lot of information in 15 minutes, but the idea is to give you an idea of what's coming in Java EE 8. Very early in the cycle, but at least you get an idea of what's coming. This was a survey that was done with the Java EE community. By Oracle ran this survey. They got feedback from about 4,500 people. What is it that they're expecting from Java EE 8? And you can see there's a whole lot of different technologies that the users communicated. Anything from MVC to security simplifications to logging to configuration. And there's a URL at the bottom of the screen where you can see the detailed analysis and more detail about what did the users responded back with. Now, Oracle took that survey, and in terms of which components are getting integrated as part of Java EE 8, this is the other view of that. So if you look at it really, this one here is MVC, or Model View Controller Architecture. This one is about security interceptors. This one is JCache, which is already part of the platform, or at least going to be part of the platform. These are some security simplifications. This is JSON binding. By all means, this is the biggest improvement that is required in the platform. Now, Java EE 7 already has Java API for JSON processing, but that's a much lower level JSON processing. These two are pruning and EJB timer being part of the Java EE, the web profile. Then here we're talking about some simplifications required for enabling in cloud deployments, server-sent event, embedded, and the configuration JSR. So you can see most of the feedback that was given by the community, at least the biggest chunk of it, is already integrated, or at least planned to be integrated as part of the Java EE 8 platform. The configuration JSR, so to say, is the only dropout at this point of time, where a JSR was intended to be filed but could not be followed up. So let's take a look at it. Where are we right now? Well, this is a table which gives you an idea of what's really happening in Java EE 8. So Java EE 8, as you know, everything is related to a JSR. So Java EE 8 platform is JSR 366. So my way, you just go Google it, JSR 366. It brings you at the JCP page where you can take a look at it, what the platform specifications are. Now, as I said, it's very, very early in the cycle, so none of the specifications have been produced. But there are some of the specifications like CDI or Java Server Faces or JAX-RS, they've started playing with some Scratch workspaces or some Scratch documents where you can at least understand what the thought process is. For some of these components, there is a discussion that has started in the expert groups. For others, they're in the phase of actually forming the expert group. So this kind of gives you an idea. CDI 2, that means is going from 1.1 to 2.0. That means that's a major upgrade, a lot of changes coming in there. MVC is a brand new specification that is getting added to the platform. Servlet is going from 3.1 to 4.0. So again, a major upgrade in that sense. JSON binding is a 1.0. So that's the first time getting added into the platform. Security simplifications were long awaited. Typically people do JAS kind of a realm with JDBC or LDAP realm or JAS principle. So that's a messy configuration, and it's not clearly portable as well. So hopefully security simplifications will make it simplified enough so that you are more tempted to use a standard solution. Management JSR is going from 1.1 to 2.0. So a lot of big changes coming there as well. And there are several other minor changes. So let's take a look at some of the quick details on what's really coming in each of these component JSRs. I'm not going to go through the entire list. That's not possible in the 15 minutes. But at least let's get a quick highlight of what's coming in some of the key JSRs. The first one, Well, that's the platform JSR, which is JSR 366. Some of the key topics over there is, the first one is alignment with web standards and HTML5. So for example, since Java EE 7 has been released, HTTP 2 is getting towards a standardization. So that's one of the big focus, to have a standard support for HTTP 2 in the Java EE 8 platform. Server-sent event as part of HTML5 is also now available as a standard. So that support is going to get added. Similarly, we are also looking at hypermedia support. Some sort of a limp support is already there in JAX-RS, but a more cleaner API and a more intuitive API is getting planned. And similarly, action-oriented framework instead of a component-oriented framework, which is JSF. So this is sort of the sub-bullets in terms of web standards and HTML5 alignment. CDI is going to be a lot more fundamental technology. It was already made quite a fundamental technology as part of Java EE 7, and now as part of Java EE 8, that's going to be the component model where everything is going to be centered around it. Some provisions are going to be made for cloud. Now, if you recall, the earlier version of Java EE 7, the goal was to provide a standards-based PaaS deployment model, but that never fly well. When talking to customers, talking to partners, talking to community, we never got the feeling that that was really required. There were other bigger fish to fry, so to say. So, that focus was changed, and I'm glad we did that for Java EE 7. But here in Java EE 8, again, we're going to take some step stones where we're going to walk towards, a full cloud enabling. But things like, REST management and monitoring, multi-tenancy. So some of those support are going to be integrated throughout the different specifications. And last but not the least, we always have a focus on enterprises. So caching, configuration, still not sure, but JMS, at least these are the key components that we're looking at the platform level. Now, JDK 8 or Java SE 8 particularly was released after Java EE 7. So there's going to be a big alignment around that. So for example, how do we use really date time API from JDK 8? How do we provide a unified Lambda syntax throughout Java EE 7 API? So that's sort of the alignment that's going to happen all across. Some of the key specifications, CDI, first of all, and the way I want you to remind is there are 365 days in a year. That's the specification you want to use, 365 days in a year, JSR 365. First of all, the way we are doing it is, and again, these are very, very early in the cycle, thought processes, and I'm just sharing with you on a proactive basis. So the goal is to split CDI into two parts. In Java EE 7, CDI is only available in the Java EE specification. But people have been asking for it. Hey, I want that dependency injection as part of the Java platform. So that's where we're saying, okay, let's make a core and a Java EE integration layer. What that gives you is the ability to have a portable bootstrap mechanism, using in any Java SE application, where you can have certain basic functionality that could be available for you. Something else we are looking at closely is asynchronous events. Now, you don't have to be synchronous events all the time. What if the producer and the consumer are not available at the time the events are generated? So that's something that is being closely looked at. We're also looking at, until JDK figures out the modularity part of it, within CDI 2, we are looking at how to create different modules. Now, what the terminology we're going to use over there is still TBD, but essentially we're looking at basic dependency injection, that's going to build upon JSR 330, which gives you @inject. Similarly, there is going to be a part B, which is basic event management. And so you can see there is a layering that is defined over there. If you go with part E, which is full CDI, that's where we exist today. But breaking into modules would allow us to pick and choose where do you want to achieve this functionality and how do you achieve it. So a lightweight container comes as part of it itself. Now MVC, again, a brand new specification that is getting added. Java EE 7 already has component-oriented framework, which is JSF. So you click here, something happens on the server side, it generates a HTML, and it gets rendered as an HTML on the client side. Now this is going to give you action-based MVC. So the idea is your model could be a CDI bean plus bean validation, where you can put your validation constraints, or a database-backed model, so which is JP entity. Your view by the specification is required to be JSP or facelets. And in addition, you can have other templating languages like FreeMarker or Velocity. Those can plug into those views. Controller has been decided to be JAX-RS based. So that's the way you're looking at model view controller. It really decouples how your model view and controller are going to look like. Now, no new templating engine would be, or language would be defined as part of it, but the idea is to make sure it works with other templating languages like FreeMarker and Velocity. So here is an example. My simple REST endpoint acting as a controller. I want to say this endpoint should be rendered using this template. Again, very, very early in the cycle, just a thought process on how we expect this to look like. Servlet 4.0, the biggest focus over there is going to be around HTTP2, that's JSR 369. We don't expect any fundamental or very significant changes in the Servlet API itself. HTTP2 is all about efficient HTTP communication. So all the magic is going to happen in the underlying wire protocol and the wire format. So hopefully the API will continue to be the same, but you will just get the efficient binary protocol that goes over the wire. JSON-B. Now, JSON-B gives you ability to do JSON binding. In Java E7, we have JSON processing API, which says, I'm going to process the JSON structure just like JAX-P at a much lower level API. With JSON binding, you can take a POJO, just like JAX-B, put an annotation on it, and it will do the default mapping automatically. So you can marshal, unmarshal POJO to from a JSON. Default mapping would be defined. So for example, you could have JSON property, JSON value, annotations defined. If you just define one annotation on the POJO, it will have a default mapping. And of course, convention over configuration. You can override those mappings as well. A very important part is there are several JSON binding similar solutions that are available. So all of those solutions will be taken into consideration, and then the API would be implemented. The hope is that there will be a pluggable implementation where you can say, here is my favorite implementation, I should be able to plug that in. Security, another big area where we're going to hopefully simplify a lot of things. So the main goal over here is, of course, to simplify and improve portability. So there will be simple security providers, for example. The existing annotations would hopefully be available across the platform. On a POJO, not just EJB, on a POJO you should be able to say add roles allowed, and then it should define the semantics. Well, we can similarly have EL-enabled security annotations that can be enabled via interceptors. Password aliasing, typically this is done today in an app server dependent way. Provide a more standard way of doing this. Another big theme here is web standards alignment. OAuth is a standard way by which the applications are being built this way these days, or OpenID. So again, having a standard mechanism on how this could be done, defining standard security interceptors which can be enabled in your application very easily and very seamlessly. Management 2.0, this is going to take your JSR 77, which was the older version of the JSR, and taking it to the next level. So any bean that is exposed using JMX would hopefully be exposed using a REST endpoint as well, and provide a CRUD operation on that just using a REST API. So we basically revamp JSR 77, REST URI for all managed objects. We're also going to provide SSE and event notification using SSE and WebSocket. So that should work as well. Okay, I'm going to skip this part. Everything else from this point onwards is sort of a minor detail. It's a minor version. The feature scope, what's going to get included in terms of the API, in terms of the JSR, in terms of the content, is pretty much up to the expert group to decide. Now, you may wonder, how can I participate in the JSRs if they are so far out? Well, the biggest way you can help really is look at the adopt a JSR efforts that are run in the local Java user groups. Or talk to Heather, go to the Oracle booth, come to Red Hat booth, learn about how you can contribute to these JSRs. If you have any use cases that you care about, that you want to contribute over here, talk to the expert groups. Google those numbers that I showed earlier. At least that way you find out where are the aliases, because JCP requires to run these JSRs in a transparent way. So you can at least subscribe to the alias, participate in the discussion, and make a difference so that instead of just being a consumer, you can actually be a producer. That's where we are needing help from you. All right. Thank you very much.